Are you thinking of buying a house in Cincinnati or Northern Kentucky? Well, here are 5 questions you should ask yourself before pulling the trigger. Hey guys, welcome back. It's Eric Sztanyo with Keller Williams Advisors Realty and TeamStanyo.com, where we are helping families find their way home. And in this video, we want to talk about, if you're a buyer looking to buy a house, 5 questions that you want to ask yourself before you buy a house, whether it's in the Cincinnati area or really any area. And I am a realtor, and so obviously I want people to buy homes, but at the same time, and there's so many good benefits to buying a house, right? It can be the fulfillment of a lifelong dream. It can be a great investment. You could buy, you could have found equity when you buy a home, or you could force equity into it if you do some updates or repairs. The house can appreciate. There's all kinds of ways that equity happens with home ownership, which is great. Not to mention, it's part of the American dream to just own your own house. But is it right for everyone? Not necessarily. You might be out there reading articles, should I buy or should I rent? And there are pros and cons to each. And there are considerations you should make before you jump in and get a big loan and decide that home ownership is right for you. So let's go run through 5 different questions you might want to ask yourself before you buy a house. All right, the first question you want to ask is, are you buying the house for the right reasons? Now, I don't really know what the right reasons might be for you, but you never want to buy a house because it's expected of you, or it's just or you feel pressured into buying a house. Maybe you're buying a house because you know it's a great financial investment, but sometimes you might be buying at the top of the market, or the house might not appreciate like you expect it to do. So before you go off and decide, I really want to plant roots, and I want the tax benefits, I want all the good things, I want to host people, all the nice things that come with buying a house, make sure you're buying it for the right reasons for you and that you're not feeling pressured into it. All right, these next considerations are going to be mostly financial in nature, and we want to make sure that you're on solid ground before you decide, again, to sign those contracts and buy that house. And so the second question we want to ask is, will your expenses be more than 30% of your net income? Your housing expenses, right? So of course, when you buy the house, you're going to be having to pay the mortgage, but let's not forget the other expenses that are involved. You're going to have property and taxes. You're going to have to pay home insurance. Of course, there's going to be ongoing repairs and maintenance. And when you add all those things up, a good level that most lenders are going to be looking at, and most financial advisors in general, is if you add all those things up, is it going to be more than 30% of your net income that you're taking home? If so, then you're getting into this part of your income that could be difficult, and if any trouble comes away, it's really pushing you and stretching you financially. So you want to be at a spot where you're thinking, okay, is this house going to be 30% or under all the expenses considered of my net income? Then you might be in a good spot to move forward. The next consideration, or the question you might want to ask, is, can I put 20% down? Can I afford to put 20% down? Now, there's all kinds of different lending products out there. I'm not a lender. I can refer you to lots of good local lenders here in Cincinnati. But that kind of magic number of 20% down, that's been the traditional number. But what that affords you, or what that gives you as a buyer, is the opportunity to not have to pay private mortgage insurance, or PMI, which is an additional cost that gets tacked on to your monthly payment of your mortgage each month. So, like I said, there are products out there where you could put 10% down, 5%, 3%, some are even no money down, right? But if you do that, you're gonna have to be paying this PMI, which is an additional cost. So there's 2 ways to look at it. You can say, that's fine, I'll pay that each month, or you want to put down at least 20% and you can avoid paying the PMI. And then the question is, again, can I afford to do that? So make sure you're looking at all the numbers and say, can I save up? If I really want to avoid that extra PMI cost each month, can I save up to put 20% down? All right, the next question, so you've considered, is the total payment under 30%? You've considered the down payment. The next question you want to ask, number 4, is, do you have enough emergency cash on standby? So now that you're going into home ownership, of course you got all these extra expenses of the home, you've got maintenance, you've got repairs, but then you also want to have this reserve emergency cash sitting by. Now, a good standard that people recommend often is 6 months of your living expenses of emergency cash. Now that seems like a lot of money, and most Americans aren't there, to be honest, to have that much, but that gives you a buffer in case you buy this new house and then all of a sudden, let's say something happens to your car and you blow a gasket. This happened to me in my car many years ago, and I had to get a whole new engine, or a whole new car. What do you do with that? What if you have an unexpected medical emergency or new doctor's bills that are coming in? You want to be able to have a little bit of buffer and this emergency cash set aside. It's always helpful to have that set aside before you buy a house. All right, the last question you want to ask is, how long do you plan on staying in the home? Do you think you'll live there 3 to 5 years? And why is that a number you want to consider? Well, when you go to buy a house, what's nice is that the seller is paying the real estate agent commissions, right? Now you're going to have your additional closing costs. Often in the Cincinnati area, those might run 2 to 4%. So let's say you're buying a $300,000 home and the closing costs are 3%. So you're paying $9,000, almost $10,000 just in closing costs. Well, if you're not positive you're gonna live in the home for at least 3 years, and then you go to sell and now you've got some selling costs that you're incurring, like paying the real estate agents on the selling side, the house might not have had enough time to appreciate. So you're actually losing that money if you're turning over the home quickly. And so that's a big consideration. It goes kind of back to our first question is, are you buying for the right reasons? Do you plan on being in this area for a substantial amount of time, at least 3 years? In Cincinnati, there are some areas that appreciate really quickly. There are some hot areas, but overall, Cincinnati tends to be a pretty even keel market. When you think nationally and you think of places like Phoenix or Florida or New York or California, places that can ebb and flow, that can appreciate a lot, but also if the market turns, it shifts really hard. Cincinnati stays usually pretty steady. And so when you're thinking about that and how long you're actually going to live there, and are you going to recoup those costs if you purchase a home and then resell it, you want to consider how long you're going to be living in that house before you go and buy it. So all right guys, those are 5 questions to ask yourself before you go and buy a house. I hope that's helpful for you. And if you are looking to buy a home or you know someone who is in the Cincinnati area, give us a call at Team Sztanyo. We'd love to help you out. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll catch you next time.